All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. Welcome to episode 399. Oh, what happens when we get to 400? Does it end or do we continue? It blows up. Maybe it's the end. Who knows? 400. That's like 300 more than I thought we'd do. 399 more than I thought we'd do. So thanks for joining us today. We've got Daniel, who stayed up early for us. Welcome back, Wheeze. St. Louis Kiss, who's always willing, always ready, always able. And
on time, too.
And on time, yeah. And the voice of reason, 69th Blizzard.
The
man who needs no introduction, Ken. We just got an introduction. So, what news this week? Well, let's see. From my perspective, I've gotten the Facebook page live for Mass Kissteria 1980. I've spent this week doing some translations from Dutch and Italian, and let me tell you, my head frickin' hurts, because I was reading an article in German today. It's painful. There's very few languages I can actually read natively. I can muddle through German at times. French, no problem. Well, gets more difficult. I'm going to need some help on translations and validating, especially the vernacular in Dutch. Please save me. So if you go to Facebook, Mass Kissteria 1980, or you can simply go to masskissteria.com, which will take you there as well. That'll show where I'm at. And again, remember, I'm only working on the demo for this. I have not done professional layouts. I'm laying it out the way I do most of my stuff. Full color is what it'll be. I piled it all together the other day, and I've got like 145 pages. A lot of it still to be written clearly, but all kind of blueprinted out where we're going, or where I'm going. Hopefully it'll become where we're going, because I will need help. I will need contributions. Fan photos. If you snuck a camera into a show, well, no shame on you, but will you share? Will you share with the Kiss Army? Because most of those sorts of class of photos aren't really, they're not Lynn Goldsmith. So I think there's a good story to tell. And, reading some of the Italian reviews that I worked on this week, it's pretty entertaining, especially Rome. Some good stuff. So more news as it comes, and you can always check out the message board on the KissFAQ. You don't have to join if you're embarrassed about some of the conversations that happen there, like I am. You don't have to sign up to read the general forum, but that's where I'm posting what I'm up to and the sort of help that I'm looking for. Anyone bought any Kiss shit this week? No, but we all got shipping notifications. No, we got
great segment.
No, I got shipping notifications from Germany for the clear vinyl, Elder vinyl that's coming out, or it is out if it's shipping, and of course Off the Soundboard, Virginia Beach. Well, whatever, and that's about it.
I did.
What did you do?
No, I did get something, but it was from Mark.
What was it?
Our friend Mark from Canada, Marcus Almighty. Three Kiss albums that I purchased off of him. I think these are all Canadian copies.
Which ones?
Makes sense.
The first album, Alive, and what was the third one? Can't remember, but I got 3 more coming, I think, also from him. So I bought a few from his stock.
Yeah, that's very non-specific. Canadian ones with Blue Label, Casbah Label, or
Blue Label. First
quality
album,
pressing,
quality pressing, Blue Label. The first album, definitely. But I haven't really looked. I just got him, so I have to really look at him again.
Yeah, but I checked out his video today for in the year 3073 Book 3. He received his CD, so head on over to the Project Gemini website to check out his updates and his show and tell of those, and quite a bit of information in that update as well. So let's get into today's topic, and I want to give a shout out to Under the Rose, who posted this topic on the FAQ, and I've taken it and put it into a different form for our conversation today. But that person's original topic was which studio album songs are most improved on Alive and Alive 2, and then it was a poll for album specific. And I wanted us to approach it a slightly different way. So I'm calling this Better Live Than, so that we could go into actual songs that we think were better on any of the 3 primary Kiss Alive albums that are better than their studio counterpoints. Now, just taking that topic from the start, I guess, is when you look at these overall, Daniel, what are the kind of things that stand out to you that make all of the songs that you've selected today better live than studio?
Well, the first thing is, of course, the first 2 albums, they don't sound that good, I think. And most of those songs sound way better on Alive. So when I picked 10, a whole lot of them came from the first 2 albums. I kind of like the sound of Dress to Kill. Destroyer, I know Mark doesn't like Destroyer, but I find it hard dissing that album because I think it sounds great. And Love Gun, pretty good. And the newer the material is, the harder it is to make it sound better live. So, for example, Alive 3, I only picked 2 from Alive 3, I think. None from Revenge. I mean, the Revenge album sounded so great. So all of the live performances for me were kind of letdowns. I kind of like Take It Off, but on a whole, wasn't good at all. So most of my top 10 songs come from the first live album.
Nice. Ken, how about you? How did you approach this topic when I assigned you the homework?
I said, I'm not doing any homework. No, and I've mentioned this before, that a lot of their live stuff is, the true, version of certain songs, are always been better. It's in that live element and sound. And yeah, I agree with Daniel. Definitely the first couple of albums are ones where they were, produced. Definitely no live feel to that, to those early albums. So yeah, it was kind of, I kind of knew what I was gonna do. I did, like Daniel, I chose 4 from from the Alive album, and then 4 from Alive 2, and then two like Daniel for Alive 3. And I agree that stuff like Revenge actually sounds worse on Alive 3 than it does on on the actual album. So that's kind of that counterpoint. That doesn't sound as good. So yeah, I took it kind of the same as Daniel. Had the same feelings about those early produced albums.
All right, Lonnie, you're up.
Yeah, I took this assignment of what Kiss songs sound better on live records than on studios, and it wasn't real difficult because I looked at like some playlists I have like on iTunes and a lot of these songs I'm like, when I'm making a playlist, well, I choose the version from Alive because it just sounds better. I don't want to hear the studio version. When I think of a version of a particular song, I think of the Alive version more than anything else because that's where it sounds best. Because if you're making a playlist of some songs, well, you want the best version possible. And for a lot of these songs, I looked at, okay, well, I listened to that song from Alive too more than I listened to the studio record. But echoing back to what Daniel was saying, is that I really leaned heavy on just Alive 1 more than anything else. Just because I think a lot of the songs on the first 2 records just missed the mark, and they just got it right when Alive was recorded. So, and Ken and Daniel are both right in the same sense too. Like those Revenge songs, they sound so much better studio than they do on the Live 3. But there are some versions on Kiss Alive 3 that are, hey, that sounds a whole lot better than the studio version. We'll get into that.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting part of the conversation. I mean, the brief was, using only Alive 2, and Alive 3, which songs sound better on the Kiss Alive albums than on the studio albums from which they're sourced. Pick a list of 10, or as close as you can, because I thought it might be a challenge, and I'll compile the list from it. So I took it from a slightly different perspective. I thought it was going to be too easy to bag on the first two albums in particular and skew the list to, the Alive album. So I started with Alive 3 when listening back to these to see which ones of those songs really jumped out at me. Now, the production of the album really doesn't jump out at all. So it was a little bit of a challenge restricting it only to the albums that had been released post Alive 2. So then I looked at how I generally talk about a lot of the albums from the 70s. I often insult the production of Love Gun. I often insult the production of Dress to Kill and Hotter Than Hell, and kind of kept it within that realm. I really look at an album like Kiss as nearly untouchable, even with the warts that it has. So why don't we just jump straight into the list? And we immediately had 3 out of 4 of us pick Deuce, which, I'm one. I think Ken was the only one who did not pick Deuce.
No,
You picked it from Alive.
From the first album.
Okay, I didn't pick it from the first album. Correct.
Well,
no, it's the first album. I didn't pick it from the first Alive.
No, you picked it from the Alive 3
Alive 3
perspective
version.
rather than the Alive. The rest of us all had that pegged as we want it to sound more like 1975 than 1973. So, Daniel.
Well, I actually picked Alive from Alive 1. No, I picked Deuce from
twice.
Alive. Yeah, and Alive 3.
That's cheating.
Because no, that's not cheating. That's
It's
intelligent.
it's worth a deuce.
That's what it is. The first version is so bombastic. I mean, it comes out right off the bat, right out of the gate, starts off Alive and sets the tone for the whole album. Probably my favorite live version of any song ever is the first song on Alive. And it's a great opener. It's the best opener that Kiss has ever used. So that's one of my top 10 songs of all time. But don't underestimate the version on Alive 3. Ken picked it as well. I remember buying Alive 3 and being blown away, mostly because Deuce sounded so updated. It sounded like so fresh. And I wasn't that old when I got to Alive 3, but I managed to understand that Eric Singer had something to do with it. His drumming on that song is just phenomenal. And then a few months after I got Alive 3, I got a hold of some bootlegs, and I remember one called Brooklyn Rock City from the club tour. And that version is even, if possible, even better, because I think it's so raw. And if you ever want to get a hold of a good revenge bootleg, you should go out and get Brooklyn Rock City. I think it's at this point it's easy to get a hold of, but back then it was like a treasure. You found like a hidden secret. I remember finding it at flicking through records, and what is this? Brooklyn Rock City. So Deuce from Alive 1 and Alive 3 are just awesome. Awesome. I can't say that word correct. Awesome, I think it is. So of course Deuce has to be on the list, and one of the best songs ever.
Okay, instead of awesome, just be British and say it's brilliant.
Brilliant.
It's
awesome.
brill.
Awesome.
Absolutely brill.
I don't know the beginning of that word. Is it awesome, I think? Or is it awesome? Awesome.
I don't know. All I know is when Alive
Awesome.
3 came out, I'd broken my
Awesome.
kneecap and I was taking lots of morphine, and the album didn't sound as good when I came off the morphine. Lonnie, Deuce from Alive.
I chose this. It's my go. It's my go-to version of Deuce, off of one of my go-to Kiss albums. I mean, it's so the energy in this song off of Alive versus the energy off of the studio album is just night and day. It's just so driving on Alive 1, and it just, like Daniel said, it just sets the tone for that whole album, and it's just so great. It just aces guitar riffs at the end. It's just fantastic, and it really just makes the studio version sound weak. As much as I love that first Kiss album, you listen to Deuce off Alive, then you listen to Deuce off of the original album. It's just doesn't sound like the same song almost. So, I mean, and like Daniel said too, like it's my favorite. It's my favorite song that they open with. I think they should. I feel they should always open with Deuce because it's so, it's such a great opener. So, it had to be on my list of what songs sound better live versus studio. It's a no-brainer to me. I mean, Daniel loves it so much you picked it twice. Shit.
Yeah, Ken, you also had it pegged into the Alive 3 kind of section of your list. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I pulled it from Alive 3. I originally, actually, I did choose it from Alive, and then I started listening to Alive 3, and I thought, you know what, this sounds more, I don't know, fresh and in your face and very tight, just the sound of it. More Deuce deserves to be a heavy metal kind of song, and it's a lot heavier there than on the Alive album. Like Daniel was saying, Eric is part of that reason, and I would say Bruce too. And the band was very tight at that point, so it was very clean, tight recording, and it was good, and it's good. It just rocks, which is what it should do. So it's more like what it sounds like today in concert, versus if you say Kiss plays Deuce today, it sounds more like Alive 3 than Alive, that version. So yeah, I thought it was refreshing kind of, and so that's why I took it from Alive 3.
Yeah, Seduce is obviously my go-to song. It is my favorite Kiss song, period. And for the last 20 years, the vast majority of shows that I've seen, when they've done Deuce, it's been Eric Singer has performed it closer to the Alive format than to the Alive 3 format. Therefore, when I think about it, I have no problem with the studio version on the first album. But when you hear it on Alive, there's something spectacular about it. All of a sudden, it's a different creature to some degree, and that's why it makes my list, just because it is. I love the song so much that it's almost love with an asterisk when it's on Alive.
I think it's kind of just one thing quick. I don't listen to the Rolling Stones a whole lot, but there is one song that really, that I really liked, and it was called "Bitch." And a whole lot of years later, Gene said, I stole the riff from Bitch. It's like... And I totally got into that song and I loved it. And then a few years later, I got to understand that Gene Simmons kind of twisted that riff somehow and made Deuce. So... That tells you a whole lot. I thought I found something new, something fresh that I didn't know of, and then it was kind of a sibling to Deuce, and that happens very often. I think when you find new music, you think you find something new, but in reality, it reminds you of something else that you love. So that happens to me all the time. I just thought I would throw that in.
Yeah, that Stones
Good
song.
point.
I love that. I absolutely love Bitch. That riff gets me reaching for my guitar every time I hear it as well. And the Dead Daisies did a killer version of it, which I got to see on the cruise. All right, moving on. Oh, let's see. 3 of us have Watching You. So, Lonnie, why don't you get us started with that?
I think Watchin You was the first song that I selected when going through this exercise. And it was a toss-up, actually, for me, if I wanted to go with the version from Alive or Alive 3, because I do like the version on Alive 3 a whole lot as well. I think Eric's drumming is fantastic on that. But at the end of the day, I still went with the version on Alive 1. It just sounds so dark. It sounds much darker on Alive 1 than it does on Alive 3 or the studio version. It's one of my more favorite Kiss songs, and the live version is the version that I go to. You know, the version on Hotter Than Hell is just, again, like Deuce, what we were just talking about. It just sounds kind of watered down, and it just doesn't have the same energy. The energy on this song, just like Deuce, on Alive is very intoxicating. It's just very driving, and it just makes you want to pump your fist in the air. And I love when they do this song live, and they don't do it enough. I was excited when they did it on the reunion tour, which I thought was great. And I saw them do it in Sault Ste. Marie in 2007. My brother and I were just like, unreal. They're playing Watching You. I mean, shit. So this, like I said, this was the first song I selected in doing this exercise. It was a no-brainer for me. And obviously it was for 2 of the 3 other panelists.
Yeah, for me, it was a much harder decision to put this one into preferring it on Alive than Alive 3, because I do really enjoy the performance on Alive 3 as well. But again, what skewed it back towards Alive was simply because Eric hasn't really done that sort of performance for much of the time that I've seen the band live. Ken, you also had Watching You.
Yeah, this is another one of my favorite songs, actually, on Hotter Than Hell. So yeah, it's so much improved on the Alive album, for many of the same reasons that Lonnie mentioned. It does come alive. I didn't mean to say alive, but it does come alive. Yeah, it leads back to the poor production on Hotter Than Hell. Though now, a lot of people say, well, this just that because it was produced that way, it's kind of it's a special kind of sound or drudgy sound, now, and people's like, well, don't change it. But I still would like to hear it, changed, because, yeah, it might sound more like Alive, the version on Alive. So that would be, a good thing.
Yeah, Daniel, you don't have this on your list, but any thoughts on Watching You?
I could easily have it on my list as well. I think it's awesome on Alive 1 and Alive 3. However, I felt it was... I would have preferred other songs on Alive 3, because Watching You is really kind of a deep cut, and I think it was a bad choice for Alive 3. I would rather have seen War Machine, which they played, or Tears Are Falling would have made more sense on Alive 3. I always felt that it was kind of a throwaway on Alive 3, a deep cut that people wouldn't get into. But as a song, I like it as well. It's creepy as hell, the lyrics. For once they nailed the lyrics. It's so creepy, the lyrics, like some guy watching someone that don't, through a window or something, while they are undressing or something. But it feels really creepy, and the way he sings it, both on Alive 1 and Alive 3, really underlines that kind of creepy feeling. So it's a good song, and I understand that you guys picked it.
Yeah, now he's well past 70.
I'm watching you.
It's well past creepy into the gutter. All right, this one is only had 2 votes, surprisingly, and that is me and Ken. Rock and roll. Oh wait, no, 3. Daniel had it as well. Rock and roll all night and party every day. Daniel, take us into why that makes your list.
Rock and Roll All Night and Party Every Day is a live song. The only downside, I picked the version from Alive 1, but the only downside is they never put it in the right order, in the right position. Rock and Roll All Night should be last, not second to last or in the middle of the set as it was during Alive 3. So the only problem I have with Alive 1 is the song order. It's not correct. I think, isn't Let Me Go Rock and Roll the last song on Alive 1?
Yeah,
I think it is.
So.
Yeah.
I have never seen them ending a show with Let Me Go Rock and Roll. Maybe they had in the beginning, but
Back then.
But Rock and
Yeah.
Rock and Roll All Night should be the great finale of the show, and I don't know what the heck they were thinking during Alive 3 when they went for Star Spangled Banner instead. It had been done by Jimi Hendrix way before, so but the live version is excellent, and that's the version they used for the video in '87. I think they released a video, used footage from Exposed. They didn't choose the studio track, and that was a no-brainer because this is really live and vibrant and a dynamic version of Rock and Roll All Night. So it's close to perfection.
Yeah, and to sound like Nigel from Spinal Tap, and it's got a solo too, which the studio version did not. So, who else had this? Ken, you did.
Yeah. And just like you just said, it has a solo. That was the big thing that was missing from it on Just to Kill. Well, Just to Kill is produced nicely, really good. It's clear. It's a catchy tune on there. But yeah, that solo is a nice breakup of the continued over and over Rock and Roll All Night. Chorus keeps going on and on. And that's what they. I don't know why they didn't have a solo, but there's a couple other songs on Just to Kill that had no solos in it too, because they were, I guess, in such a rush. But yeah, that on Alive, they released it as a single, rightly so, and that actually, worked that time because it didn't work from Just to Kill when they released it then. So yeah, I think the solo made all the difference, and then the live feel, the party atmosphere, the crowd, and all that just makes it work.
Yep, it becomes the party that it rightfully should be. Lonnie, you didn't have it on yours, but your thoughts on Rock and Roll All Night?
No, I did have it on mine, but I can definitely see why you guys chose it. I mean, it is a signature Kiss song, and it's the version that made Kiss a national act. So, and the solo is big, and it's a fun song. And no, if I go listen to rock, if I go listen to Rock and Roll Night, it is the Alive version as well. It's not the Just to Kill version at all.
Right. So you and Ken have the next pick making the list, and that is Firehouse.
I have it as well.
Nice.
Julian math.
Jesus. Julian math. Wow. Okay. I'm sorry, Daniel. You're also guilty. There you go. Lonnie, why does Firehouse make your list as being better live than studio?
Firehouse just is much more powerful on a live than it is off the studio record. Just this weak, just take the end of the song, for example. Like, everyone knows what happens at the end of Firehouse. In fact, Firehouse is made to be the live version with Gene breathing fire. And at the end of the song, you can hear the sirens going. Like, you can feel those sirens going at the end of the Alive version. And you can look in your Alive book and see Gene breathing the fire. And the studio version just has this weak little siren at the end. It's very, very non-climactic. Yeah, exactly. Sounds like someone just cranking something at the end. It's just very weak. And and not just the end of the song, but just the whole song in general. The version on the original album, it sounds more like a Beatles song, and there's nothing wrong with it sounding like a Beatles song, because the song does kind of sound like the song's kind of written almost like a Beatles song, like "Get the Firehouse because she sets my soul afire." It almost sounds like a Beatles song to me, but it's just so much more. Again, I'm sounding like a broken record when we go back to me, but it's so much more energetic on a live, and it's much heavier on a live than it is on that studio version. It's more powerful and more driven and more electric, and in the end it just culminates at the end, and it doesn't have that culmination on the studio record. So again, like I said at the beginning of the show, it's my go-to version of Firehouse. Which, if I'm going to listen to Firehouse, now I want to listen to the version of live. It's an easy choice.
Yeah, and that's a common denominator for many of the early albums, well, the first two in particular, is you take that sludgy, almost non-existent production off them and give it a bit of brightness and spark, which you get on the live. Even if you took the live audience out of those performances on a live, I dare say that they might well measure up and be better than the studio versions, even without the fakeness attributed to them. I'm sorry, Daniel, for ignoring. I put your color in green for Firehouse and the other guys in purple, so that's why I made a mistake, which does occasionally happen. Why did you pick Firehouse?
I just have to second Lonnie. He said it so well. I agree with everything he said, and I remember getting a live one. I guess in '86 maybe, and Animalize and Asylum were my first album, so I was kind of surprised hearing Alive. It sounded kind of different, but I do remember vividly the first song that stuck from the album was actually Firehouse, because I thought it was awesome right off the bat. So there's something about the live version that is great. And even though he kind of stole the idea from, was it Fire Brigade by that British band Slade? I think it's a cool song. Yeah.
Roy Wood.
Okay. And I remember a poll on Kiss FAQ, the Kiss FAQ board. It was something like this: is Firehouse a bad song, just a cool song, or a masterpiece? And I think it's just a cool song, It's a simple song, but it's just cool, and I think it's always worked really well live with all the lineups of the band, everything from the Revenge era and the original era. It always sounded great, and I kind of like the versions from their car era as well, like from '80, cool sounding. So it's a great song live.
Ken.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. It is great live. The big difference for me with that, and actually another song that I almost made on my list, Cold Gin, they're both similar in a way, but they're both, they're slower. Firehouse is really just too slow. The pace of it on the first album. They sped it up, and it turned out to be more energetic type song, though it's still rather slow. It's not like a high paced beat or anything on it, but it's much better. It's in its true element of being on the Alive album, and it for the same reasons they said about it. It's a real, like Daniel said, cool song. It's always been cool. I've always liked it.
Yeah, Daniel, you had Cold Gin on your list. What were the was because it was sped up and given some more energy and dynamics on the live version versus the studio?
Yeah, actually, what Ken said, I don't know if you can see that cold gin faster. Because that's the main thing. Cold gin has worked so well for Kiss through the years. But when you hear the studio version, it doesn't really sound that good. And I think Ken nailed it when he said it's all about the tempo of the song. It's too slow. But when they speed it up, something happens. And the Alive version is totally awesome. I like the way Gene sings it as well, the aggression.
Yeah.
And the riff, I mean, it's such a simple riff, but it's so fun to play. It's almost like metal when you hear it. And I think that was one of Ace's strengths during the early years. The way he came up with cool riffs, everything from Cold Gin to Rocket Ride, maybe not Torpedo Girl so much, but there are a few really
Parasite,
cool Ace.
yeah.
Parasite, yeah, of course,
Yeah.
Parasite. I forget that's maybe the best one. And this is one of his signature riffs that I enjoy to this day, and I think the Alive version is totally awesome. Fuck.
All right, moving on. This is pretty much, I think, the last song from Better on Alive than on the studio albums, and Lonnie and I were the only ones who had this on our list. Lonnie, Come On and Love Me.
Come On, Love Me. Yes. Love it. Absolutely love the version on Alive of Come On and Love Me. Again, go-to version of this song. It sounds so good on Alive that I can't help it. Not that it sounds bad on Dress to Kill, because I like the version on Dress to Kill, but I feel like the version on Alive is that much. It's even better. It's on 11. To steal from Nigel again, as Julian did earlier. It is probably my favorite Kiss song, and it's my favorite version of my favorite Kiss song. So I couldn't not pick this, doing this exercise, because I absolutely love this version of this song, and it's, you know, it for me it's Kiss at its best. This song is, especially right here on Alive.
Yeah, it's a great single on Dress to Kill, but just giving it that live sparkle and swagger, because Paul's got a little bit more on stage than he does in the studio. He's giving it a little bit more, well, sex. You know, it really has that kind of rock star attitude coming through it. And on Alive, I love the song. It's in my top 10 without any doubt. My top 10's got about 40 songs in it, by the way. Just one of those things. Ken,
you seem to disagree.
Well, you know what? I thought about it, and actually I saw your list, and I was like, come on, I said, that is like pop perfection on Dress to Kill. I just like, it's not so much better than what's on Dress to Kill. You know, it's not so much better on Alive. Didn't seem like it gained some, but I didn't think it gained that much compared to one of my picks, which I guess you guys didn't pick, which was Black Diamond. I thought Black Diamond was much better on Alive. I mean, it had a bigger gain than I think Come On and Love Me did. And Black, yeah, I think so.
No, they could never play that outro live.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's why we lost what was on the outro, the droning, you know, slowdown at the end of the first album on Black Diamond, and have a proper ending on Alive. But that's only part of it. But anyway, that's just us saying Black Diamond. I don't know. I'm disappointed in you guys with that one. But you know, I can see where you're going. It's you know, Come On and Love Me is a great song, but I prefer definitely the pop perfection of Dress to Kill.
Okay, when it comes to pop perfection, Ken is a purist. Daniel,
Apparently
thoughts
so.
on Come On Love Me? Or who you siding with, me and Lonnie, or are you going to side with Ken
Yeah,
to keep
pick a
things
side.
even?
I'm actually going to side with Ken on this one.
Wow.
I think he totally nailed it because it's improved, but I feel not to the same extent as many of the other songs, because the version on Dress to Kill is totally a kick-ass version. I could play that easily on Spotify, and I wouldn't need a live version. While on the other hand, you have songs like Cold Gin and Firehouse. The improvement from the studio album to the live album is so great that I understand why Lonnie picked it. It's one of his favorite songs, and he wants to get it on the list. But if you're
Selfish.
really honest, it's very selfish, very selfish.
Selfish move.
But if you're honest about it, the version of Dress to Kill it's a cool version, and it might be a bit better on the live one, but it's not that much improved. So I'll second Ken on this one.
Okay, so I clearly only voted for it to keep Lonnie happy.
Thank
there we
you.
go. Yeah, no problem.
That's
Anytime.
selfish too.
Well, I guess then for this next song, I only voted for it. It's only on my list to keep Daniel happy.
Aha.
Shout it out loud, Daniel. Why does that make your list?
I don't know. When I listen through the albums, most of the songs from Destroyer, I prefer the studio versions. I saw some of you guys pick Out of Thunder. I don't agree with that one, but most of the songs on Destroyer sounds great. Even though some people of the podcast, some person on the podcast might feel a different way, but I feel the sound is great. The versions are great on Destroyer, so it's much harder to make a better version live than when you go to the first two albums. But Shout It Out Loud, I think it's something about that song, and it's been in the set for decades, and that's because it works so great live, and you can really hear it on live too. They've sped it up somewhat, and I think that made it work even better. So, and the singing is cool, and the ending is thought through. You have an ending to the song instead of those fade outs. I hate those fade outs that Kiss has. They have them on so many songs, but you have a real ending, and Paul Stanley's just fired up all through the song. Adding small bits here and there, yeah, and come on, and so on. So it feels really live, and Shout It Out Loud was made to be played live, and it really came into fruition on live too.
I agree. That's why it's on my list. It's a little bit of revisionism on my part because I hate the song. It's too damn happy. But when I've heard it in concert in recent decades, I start singing along with it and getting,
Right.
into the moment. I don't like super happy pop, syrupy songs. And that's why, on one of the cover album compilations or tributes, they actually had a Partridge Family, I believe, tribute act cover this song.
Wow.
Which is just so perfect. I think I'm correct on that, and I'll be fact-checked, no doubt, after the fact. But it is just so sickly saccharine on the album. But it's impossible for me nowadays, when I'm at a Kiss show, to not get into the freaking groove with it. So I don't even like the production on Alive 2. It's simply that it's the album that it's on, which is why it made my list, because it makes me smile in concert now rather than grit my teeth and snap off a crown. Lonnie, thoughts on Shout It Out Loud?
I can see why Dano chose it. I like the production on the second set of albums, Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, and Love Gun, that it was hard for me to choose songs. I think I chose songs off Alive 2 the least amount of any of the live albums. because
The hell?
I like the version on Destroyer. Just as you guys were saying, you like the version of Come On and Love Me. So, but I can see why you guys, at the same breath, I can see why you guys chose it, because Shout It Out Loud was like one of those songs that's meant to be played live, and you can, like Daniel said, you can feel Paul's energy throughout the song with the come-ons and things like that in between. So I get it. Not one of mine, but I totally get why you guys would choose that.
All right, Ken. Last words on Shout It Out Loud.
Yeah, Shout It Out Loud. Actually, I did almost pick that one, but just some others kind of beat it out. Yeah, I think I used to listen to it a lot, and enjoyed the Live 2 version, because that was my first, Kiss album. So I listened to that, and I remember listening to that song a lot, among other ones. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't, pick it over something else that I think improved. But I think it's a good choice.
All right. Well, Daniel's off in the loo. He mentioned God of Thunder, and both you and Lonnie have picked God of Thunder.
Yeah.
Ken, why?
Well, God of Thunder improved so much. This is another case of God of Thunder was very, to me, very slow and dreary kind of. I mean, it's an evil. It's not, it's Julian's type of song, not saccharine, I guess. So, God of Thunder, I always felt was at its perfect speed on Alive 2. It just again, that brought it more to life, and it had a good pace, and with Peter's drumming was great on that version. So I just think that's the much better version. If I want to listen to God of Thunder, I'll go for that Alive 2 version over Destroyer.
Lonnie, on your list as well. Similar reasons?
Yeah, similar reasons. It's my go-to version of God of Thunder. I like the Gene screaming God of Thunder. It just brings it to life that much more to me. And Peter's and the drum solo in the middle of it, and the reprise of it at the end. It is definitely my version of it. I mean, Ken, you mentioned that it sounds a little slower on Destroyer. Well, have you listened to the Alive Millennium version? You want to talk about a slow version of God of Thunder? Good Lord, that thing will put you to sleep.
It needs some Energizer battery.
Right. The Alive 2 version. I mean, you talk about the Millennium version to the Alive 2 version. I mean, night and day. But I enjoyed that. That is my version of God of Thunder. It's just screaming God of Thunder. Gene just screaming at the end, like his voice cracking at the end because he's screaming out the lyrics. I love the fact that, as edited as you would have said those Alive albums are, that they left that in. I love that so much. So, and I like the version on Destroyer. Don't get me wrong. I give Mark a whole hard time constantly about him bashing Destroyer, because I mean, Destroyer is like the signature Kiss album. How are you on a Kiss podcast if you don't like the album Destroyer? But Mark's not here to defend himself. So anyway, but I do like the production of God of Thunder on Destroyer. But to me, the Alive 2 version is my go-to.
Nice. So you and Lonnie, you and Ken also picked Shock Me. Similar
Boxed
reasons.
up.
Why?
The Ace guitar solo makes it that much better. It features Ace Frehley. We got a little surprise for you tonight, Ace Frehley. It's so great. So the Love Gun version is good. It really is. And I struggled with, and again, like I said earlier, I struggled with songs off Alive 2 versus the second set of Kiss studio albums, because I think the production on the second set of Kiss studio albums is so good, even though the production is different from like Destroyer to Rock and Roll Over. I still think they're good in their own right. But Shock Me, Ace Frehley singing it live, the live solo, I think it's over the top. Ace Frehley live, I had to put it on there.
Ken?
Yeah, a lot of the same reasons. I mean, I think his voice definitely seems better, stronger on the Alive 2 album than on Love Gun. Love Gun his voice seemed a little thin or weaker. I mean, we all know he's not the best singer in the world, and as strong as some of the other guys, but
Nerves. He was doing it in the studio on the floor.
It's
and
his first
now he's
vocal.
performed it, 20 times in front of audiences.
Yeah, so there you go. That's why Alive 2 is better. So that's why I give it the bump, and plus the guitar soloing going on that, and it's a little bit more gritty production too, because it's a little maybe too slick for that song. Production by Kramer on Love Gun. So yeah, Alive 2 is the go-to for me.
So Daniel, you get to catch up. You had mentioned God of Thunder earlier, and both Ken and Lonnie picked it, making the list, and Shock Me. So your thoughts on both of those?
Yeah, Shock Me can do real fast. I don't think it's a very good song. I do like the drumming on the song, but I don't think it's nowhere near my top 50, maybe. So,
Wow.
So I think the studio version is okay, man. The live version is okay, but I have to chime in on God of Thunder because the Destroyer version to me totally works. It seemed like you guys like both versions, but I think it works good in the slow tempo. It works. And it's kind of funny because people always mention Animalize Live Uncensored as this. They speed up everything way too much. I know some people have said that on the podcast, Julian, but this is a version that's really sped up. I mean, it's God of Thunder on some sort of testosterone or something. I think it's a bit too fast, actually. In general, I like when they speed up stuff. But my version, you said your version was the Alive 2 version of God of Thunder, but I prefer the way they performed it during the club tour in '92 or the UK tour in '92. That I think is my go-to version. And I really do hope they release something off the soundboard from the '92 shows because they sound so awesome. And I remember when the reunion happened, and here in Sweden we had something called Headbangers Ball, the European version with Vanessa Warwick, and she actually was at Donington. And you got to hear two songs, I think, Firehouse and God of Thunder. And I do remember the shock of hearing God of Thunder, the slowness of the song. It didn't work in that slow tempo. After hearing it in '92, the best version ever, and then hearing it in '96, like some really slow. It was too slow. It wasn't up to par with the '92 version. So I remember being really disappointed. So God of Thunder Alive 2 version, no way near, and Shock Me weren't near my list either.
Well, at least God of Thunder '96 isn't as bad as Kiss 2020
No,
Goodbyes
that's
version.
true.
There is always a different bottom of the barrel.
What's the line?
Hold on. Is there a version of Kiss 2020 Goodbye? Where can I buy this?
What was he singing about the gold stuff? The sacred gold, or what was it?
The sacred goat.
Ken, where can I buy this at?
Why did you take Ken's good mood, Lonnie, and just flush it down the shitter?
It was too easy.
I already bought it. Sorry, but
I mean, you
Ken,
did.
bought it. Ken, you bought it?
Honestly, Ken, Julian, do you ever think you will get anything from the stuff you ordered?
Oh yeah, we'll get stuff. We'll get excuses.
Wow.
there you go.
All right.
Will we get any action? Hell no. All right, moving on. Ken, you and I also are responsible for this next song making the list. Christine 67.
Yeah.
More appropriate.
61.
Christy 60.
Reverse.
Why does Christine 16 make your list?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs initially off of Alive 2 when I was listening to it back then. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's better, especially the talking part is better than the Love Gun version. And it's a little bit, more rock and raw, and it doesn't have a piano in it. It doesn't need the piano. And so I just always enjoyed that version of Christine 16. It's just kind of a lively version of it, obviously. But it just rocks more for me, and I enjoy that more than the studio version.
Yeah, I had several songs from Love Gun make my list that no one else voted for. Christine 16, it's one, if you take some of the polish off from that production, which is really lacking to me, the same paradigm applies to both Love Gun and Dress to Kill for me. A little overly polished, just like Crazy Night shit, which if you peel back a few layers, you really get some good rock and roll. And that Christine is just good. I mean, it echoes back to the 50s with, some of its structure. And, for the age I was when I first heard it, and Alive 2's version, it was always a song that jumped out at me as being better live than, in the studio. Lonnie, thoughts on Christine 16?
I can see why you guys picked that. I was teetering on that one a little bit. But I don't think there's anything wrong with the studio version of Christine 16. I kind of like the piano in it a little bit. I don't have a problem with it. I can see why you guys picked it, but again, kind of like what Daniel said about Come On and Love Me. I don't think there's a drastic improvement from one to the other. I think the studio version's fine in my opinion, but but at the same time, I can see why you guys picked it. It's not a bad version of it by any stretch.
Yeah, Daniel.
Lonnie got it correct. I mean, it's not a drastic improvement. It was a great song on the studio album. It's a great song on the live album, but either one is good enough for me. But I'm thinking, was I the only one who picked like Parasite?
Yes.
Was I the only one?
Yes. We'll talk about that at the end. So hold your horses. We got one more song here, and appropriately enough, it's a unanimous pick. It's the only one from all of our lists, and I'll go through all the songs that we've got that were rejected by others. But I Was Made for Loving You. I think we unanimously agree sounds better on Alive 3 than on the studio album. Daniel, take us straight into that.
The first time I understood that I Was Made for Loving You was such a great song was not when I heard Dynasty or something like that. It was when I got a hold of 2 bootlegs from Detroit, 1990. Or I think it wasn't one of them. They did 2 shows in 1990 in Detroit, but on one of the shows they performed I Was Made for Loving You, and they pulled out all the all the tricks and all the bombs and fireworks, and sped it up and made it kind of like a metal song. I hadn't really understood that it could sound like that before I watched the bootleg from Detroit, and I instantly fell in love with the song. And then thankfully they put it on Live 3, and it sounded just as good on Live 3 as it did in 1990. So it's just a rocking version, and you still have the sing-along chorus is still there, but it's much heavier. And always when I listen to or when I watch an NHL game, they often play the I was made during the games, but unfortunately they always play the wrong version. I wish they would play the one from a live theme. It's because it's such a kick-ass version, and that's the way it should have sounded on the studio album. But I guess it wasn't possible back then. But the version on Live 3 is the most improved song of all, I would say, that's on the list. From the original to the live version, I would pick I Was Made as the most improved song ever in Kiss live history.
I think I'd agree with you. I mean, it's on my list, and I don't think it was just the morphine talking in 1993. When I first heard Alive 3, it was a song that jumped out at me as, wow, this is, spectacular, whereas it was really kind of one of those songs that I almost skirted away from in the 80s because of its, pretensions, which flew in the face of everything else that I was listening to. So there were two songs on Alive 3 that I felt really benefited from being updated and being performed live and captured in that manner. No one else voted for Forever, but I really dig that one equally on Alive 3. But I Was Made for Loving You, absolutely right, Daniel. I think it is probably the most improved Kiss catalog song and being transformed into the live version. Lonnie, it's on your list.
Yeah, for sure. Again, it was kind of a no-brainer for me to put that on there. I mean, it's much more driving and heavy, and it just sounds more like a Kiss song off of Alive 3 than it does off of Dynasty. Not that there's anything wrong with the version on Dynasty. I mean, we all know what they were trying to do with the version that's on Dynasty. But that version on Alive 3 is really good. And, it's not Alive 3, but I remember when they played it like at Tiger Stadium at that show you were at, Julian, like Paul introduces a song and he's like, but when you hear it live, it sounds the way it's supposed to sound. And it sounds good there too. It's a song that was meant to play live and sounds more Kiss live than it ever translated on in Dynasty. But again, I know we all know what they were striving for and what they were trying to do, but it's just so much better. It's so much better on Alive 3 than it is on Dynasty. It's doing this exercise. It was okay. Well, just look at Alive 3 in a snapshot. Oh well, I Was Made for Loving You right off the bat, and then it kind of go, what else on Alive 3? And you listen to it, and you're like, I don't know, but that song just stands out amongst the rest.
I think they did a great live version as early as 1980, but it was great to hear it on a record.
Right.
I mean, if you hear a version with Eric Carr in Australia, that's a goddamn good version as well.
Yep. Ken?
Yeah, I mean, it no longer sounded on the live thing. It no longer sounded like disco. I mean, it had no remnants of really being disco, other than I guess a steady beat, but to a degree. But it's just a catchy chorus song. But yeah, it became a heavy song versus this poppy disco song that from Dynasty. It totally changed. I mean, yeah, they didn't play it after 1980 forever, right? I mean, until yeah. So it was a long time. They just kind of gave up on it because they didn't know, I guess, how to change it from its real disco form. They gave up on it. But it's good that they brought it back, and I guess they still do it today. And it's a heavy, cool song that they play in concert, and yeah, the Live 3 improves on it. I mean, I guess improving by being heavier, more Kiss sounding, and then pushing it away from that disco vibe. I guess you can call it.
Yeah, so this list that we've talked about in terms of the songs that we've picked across the board, Ken, is most representative of the 10 songs that you picked. Only 2 of your selections didn't make the cut, and that's Black Diamond and King of the Nighttime World. Lonnie, you kind of also are very represented in this list in that only 3 of your cuts didn't make it, and that's She, 100,000 Years, and I Love It Loud for Alive 3. Daniel and I are both at the bottom of that with 4 of our picks. Daniel, Strutter, Parasite, Cold Gin, and Ladies' Room. Ladies' Room, that's a really good pick, by the way. Didn't make it. And for mine, Forever, Tomorrow and Tonight, go figure, with my hate of pop, Hotter Than Hell, and Got to Choose. So those were some of the songs that appeared on our list that, no one else agreed with, unfortunately, so we're unable to make the cut. I want to wrap up with just going back to that poll that originally started this idea for this topic, and looking at the vote results of which studio album songs are most improved on Alive and Alive 2, and obviously they've ignored Alive 3 out of the equation. It's actually shocking that the winner of that vote is Kiss, the first album. 58% of people picked that album as sounding most improved. Only 25 or 19% picked Hotter Than Hell. 10%, 13 people picked Dress to Kill. 5 picked Destroyer. Rock and Roll Over had 8% with 10 people, and Love Gun the fewest. So, from person to person, it just illustrates again how much the opinion varies between one member of the Kiss Army and the next, and that there really is no right answer to this. It's just a good way to frame a conversation. Daniel, any final thoughts before we go?
No, I just have to say that
you're really tired and want to go to sleep.
No. I'm on a holiday. We have a lot of holidays over here, as I mentioned from time to time.
You're civilized.
What's that?
We have a life. So I just have to say it went the way I thought it would. Most of you guys picked a lot from Alive, the Alive record, and those are the songs that are most improved. And I Was Made for Loving You. It's good to hear that all of you liked it as well, because I think it's just a kick-ass song on Alive 3. And some of the picks you had, I didn't agree with, but I do understand why you picked them. So I think there were some good picks, and we got it right, as we always do.
Absolutely. Lonnie, final thoughts.
Yeah, it's interesting. Kiss is such a band that's well known for their live records, and it's just interesting to get different perspectives from the 3 of you of your go-to versions of Kiss songs, which you feel are better represented on these Alive albums. So, while we have similar choices, we have some different ones as well. But it's an interesting exercise, and I'm anxious to hear what the board has to say as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I can't wait to hear how people chime in with the songs that they thought, or someone to say, well, why didn't you include Alive 4 in this equation?
Yeah, where's the Millennium Show? I just put that on.
Yeah, right. Ken, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think those, it's a good list. Of course, I had most of the songs that made it, but no, that's not why.
Of course it does. He agrees with it. Therefore, 80% Ken in favor.
Talk about being selfish.
Favor Ken. No, the first, and the poll you just talked about from the original posting. I voted for Kiss too, the first album, because I think the sound of Hotter Than Hell is kind of, I could see what's going on there. Is a lot of people just have grown to love that drudgy kind of tinny, that sound. I mean, and maybe somewhat hearing those songs any other way is just sacrilege or something.
Are you saying they lack imagination?
I could see it. No. I mean, I saying like for instance, like Strange Ways and Parasite. I like the sound of those on that album. I don't know. It's just, I guess you hear it for so many for so long, you kind of it's like sticks with you. So I don't know. Otherwise, everyone has their own opinions, of course, and there's no right or wrong. And we're not going to talk down to you and say you're wrong. You can tell us we're wrong, and I have no problem with it. I'm all good. I'm not going to talk down to you guys ever.
No, I totally agree with you about Hotter Than Hell. I dread if they ever had the multi-tracks available and the wizardry to do a resurrected version of that. It would probably be a one listen and never go back. Say, give me my sludge.
Yeah,
it'd be a really scary thing to consider, and we've talked about that numerous times. So what do you think, if you've made it this far into the show and you're listening to this point, what are the songs that you think sound better live than in the studio? Which picks that we had do you think were legit, and which ones do you think were way off base with? Chime in with your list or your picks or your comments. We do love reading them, but for now, from Daniel, Lonnie, Ken, and myself, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.